Welcome to Growing Pains, exploring the challenges in a thriving Sumner County, a podcast of the Sumner County Republican Freedom Caucus. I'm your host, Deanne DeWitt, and today we're going to talk a bit about how growth can be like a battle, not a battle between neighbors, but of visions, and how that tension really requires disciplined, thoughtful, and steady leadership and decision-making. Today, we are joined by someone who has demonstrated that kind of leadership on the world's biggest stage, U.S. Army Lieutenant General, retired, Dennis Cavin.
Thank you. Delighted to be here.
Well, we are thrilled. It is an honor to have you, my friend, my former HOA president, my member of my kitchen cabinet, yes. Award-winning, Jack Daniels award-winning barbecue pitmaster. You have been retired for a lot of years, but you continue to work and give back, and this community is blessed to have you.
Well, thank you. It's a joy to be able to get involved in the community, be a part of making the plans and the strategy going forward for Sumner County. It is a wonderful, wonderful county to live in, and I can go into much more detail than the time allows.
Well, let me give a quick introduction. This is going to be painfully short because there is so much to talk about, but a native of Martin, Tennessee, graduate of UT Martin. You went from that into the Army and spent 34 years serving our country. You had many posts, many deployments, service at every level, ending as a 3-star general. Most recently, some of that experience being honored back at UT Martin, where they renamed the ROTC building in your honor.
They did.
It's a big deal.
Very humble. Very humble.
Big deal. Well, you got through with that career. I know that you were hired to spend some time down in Huntsville at Lockheed Martin, Vice President of International Strategic Initiatives. That was the one I wanted to make sure I got right. But a lot of hats over the years. Our primary goal of this episode is to talk about what led you to form the Sumner County Republican Freedom Caucus. You are the founder, the very brave treasurer whose name gets to be on everything. So let's talk about, what is the mission to preserve what's good and help prepare for what's next? So what inspired you to start it?
Well, a group of guys were sitting around 20 months ago, January of 2024, and they were all talking about Sumner County and some of the issues that they perceive as not exactly going the way they believe that their values were. So I asked the question, okay, who's doing something about it? And of course, they all gave the ceiling look, which meant nobody is doing anything about it. So I just referred back to a book written by a friend of mine, Jack Jacobs, who is a Medal of Honor recipient. And he wrote a book called If Not Now, When? If Not Me, Who? And that kind of inspired me to say that somebody has to be me right now. And I was willing to devote the time and the effort. And 2 weeks later, we had a PAC called the Sumner County Republican Freedom Caucus. And I want to make sure everybody understands we are not affiliated in any way with the National Republican Freedom Caucus. We are focused our mission on Sumner County, the races that will make a difference for the long term.
It's an important distinction, and I'm glad you pointed that out. Was there something that kind of sounded the alarm that was part of that early conversation beyond what you just mentioned?
I think from the gentlemen that were with me, there was a lot of discuss about how the county commission, frankly, was not exactly moving in the direction that they felt was valuable to the citizens of Sumner County. And so that's one of the reasons why we formed the PAC. It's the majority of Republicans didn't have an organization that they could look to and say, that is an organization that represents the values I have, the strategy and the vision for the future that I have. And so we represent the bulk, if you will, of the Republican Party in Sumner County.
And, it's hard to find information about local elections. I think that's one of the things that I've heard you talk about a number of times, that local elections are tough. And so having an organization that is out there doing the homework and providing a point of view, it can be a really great value to the community.
Well, clearly, educating the community is one of our big missions. When you look at Tennessee as a state, it is has the lowest turnout for voters in elections, and that's criminal in my opinion. Yeah. Because I spent 34 years, as many of the citizens of Sumner County did, serving our nation in uniform, so that each and every citizen would have the privilege of going and expressing their beliefs at the booth, the voting booth. I've served in a lot of countries where they don't have that privilege. And sometimes we get very complacent and don't embrace our responsibility to vote, simply to vote.
Yeah, real important distinction there. You went from the privilege to vote and the responsibility
Absolutely.
to vote.
Absolutely.
Well, the caucus, I would say, is much more about principle than politics. Yeah. So tell us about some of the core values that affect the decision-making, the strategy for the group.
Well, over time, we've settled in on 4 core principles. And obviously, the first one is upholding true conservative values. There are 8 values that are spelled out in the National Republican Party website. You can go look at it, and there's details on what each one of those mean. Individual liberty, limited government. I mean, I could go through all 8 of them, but time might be a little bit listed here. But we have to have a set of values that are shown in our actions and in our words, whether it's on social media, whether it's in print, or whether it's just talking to a group of citizens. We have to represent those core values, and those are conservative values. We are a conservative county, a conservative state, and it's emboldened on us to continue to thrive in this environment. Also, be the champions of educational excellence and innovation. Boy, are we blessed in this county. We got a tremendous superintendent of schools in Scott Langford. His vision is just, it amazes me every time I get a chance to talk to him. And his vision for the Innovation Center and what we can do for every child in Sumner County is just remarkable. So we are a big backer of his thoughts and his vision for what Sumner County needs to do. And also, we want to advocate for investment in infrastructure to support responsible growth. Growth is a big issue for a lot of people because you get in your car and you try to drive down to Gallatin from Hendersonville at 3:30 in the afternoon. It's almost like Washington, D.C. The gridlock is, so people get frustrated about that. I know there's some actions being taken to try to relieve that, but what we have to look for is not being negative about growth, but understanding that having a strategy for responsible growth that is accompanied by a plan for the infrastructure to relieve those kinds of issues is very, very important. And there are plans underway to do some of that. But growth is not a negative for Sumner County. It can't be. It's what causes new businesses. If you are a small company, a small business here, and somebody says, well, we're going to turn off inviting anybody to come and put their new company or their family here to go to school, that affects your bottom line. So as a business owner, you're absolutely wanting to ensure we have a solid plan for taking care of those that come to Sumner County. And look, if you go out and take a survey of all the people, you might say 30 people. Let's say we take a survey of 30 people. Half of them did not grow up in Sumner County. They came here for a reason. And that reason is either the great quality of education, the tremendous community that we live in, and leaders that care about them and their families. We also want to demand, and I was talking about leaders, we want to demand accountable governance. That means transparency in what goes on. It means balancing the need for strict plans, strict governance with the responsibility and accountability to the citizens of Sumner County.
It seems pretty straightforward. And
it's a simple thought, but takes leaders who truly have the interest of the citizens at heart and then express that in their actions.
Yeah, and supporting those kind of candidates to show up and be part of the solution going forward. So tell us about the experience over the past year, maybe some lessons learned and how that shapes what's coming next.
Well, truly, God has blessed us over the last 20 months. We've been able to endorse great candidates who worked very hard during their campaign, who expressed and believe in the core values and the things I just talked about. They were motivated and they want to serve. And so we've been very fortunate in that of the 21 races that were run over the last 20 months, we endorsed 19 candidates that won. We endorsed 21, but 19 of those won. So we're very proud. If I look at the school board and the candidates that are on there that won and are on there now, I'm just thrilled at what they are doing for Sumner County. And if I look at the leadership as we of the county, Farrell Hale, what a tremendous asset for our community that's connected with the state. He's the number 3 person in the state hierarchy, if you will, and having that ability to use his vision, his capabilities with the state means a lot to Sumner County. We benefited. I mean, I was the chairman of the airport authority for 2 years. We got $10 million because Farrell worked very hard from the state to expand and improve the Music City Executive Airport.
Yeah, that's a great example. And I think that's something that folks, there's all sorts of elected officials and they all have their span of control and influence. But Senator Hale is uniquely positioned to really support Sumner County in the throughout the state and make sure the investments come home as much as possible because of his leadership and how well respected he is. So let's just talk a little bit about public discourse. It's gotten a little bit messy, especially online. And, so how do you keep your composure? What are some of your...
Well, I've learned during my career in the military that, a report that comes in, a negative report, you don't respond to that directly. Traditionally, the first report's not accurate. So you have to do your homework to get the facts. Negative emails and social media is something we're not going to do. That's not who we are. It doesn't embolden our values. We will stay factual. We will stay positive about the things that we're trying to accomplish in Sumner County.
Positivity really does bring people into the conversation rather than just make everybody feel that it's ugly and something they don't want to be a part of. The positivity, I think, really is the right tone.
And I've had a philosophy throughout my career that just kind of shows you what I mean when I talk about the difference between the negative and positive. I say if 2 people in the same office always agree, one of them isn't needed. So I embraced somebody bringing in alternative thought, but I don't embrace bringing a negative thought without constructive capabilities and constructive factors in their argument.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to just kind of throw darts at somebody else's idea, but really developing solutions.
Yeah.
I think that's a common thread that I've heard you talk about in terms of the candidates that you want to support. They're problem solvers.
Absolutely. And you can see that in the last 20 months in both the school board individuals and the other elected officials, whether it's a circuit court judge with Key McCormick. We just have to be very proud of what they are doing for the citizens of Sumner County in a way that represents those Republicans that voted for them.
Yeah. Well, I've heard the tagline, preserving our legacy, protecting our future. What does that mean to you?
Oh, wow. When I first heard it, my heart just pounded a little because it captures what I really think the PAC is about. I get asked frequently, well, what's the legacy? Well, for one thing, just go look at the Sumner County school system. Number one in the state in terms of schools with STEM programs. Number one in the state with CTE. Highest graduation rate in the last 15 years. A quality set of teachers, principals, and administrators that make this, that's a legacy that's been built. And for some organizations, some people to try to tear that down just astonishes me that they would want to do that. I can go into details, but I prefer not to. But preserving our, I mean, look at the historic homes and historic things we have in Sumner County that cause people to want to get out of their house and go on a weekend and visit some of these homes or the museums that are available.
Did you know that there are more historic sites in Sumner County than any other county? Maybe Davidson. We haven't figured out for sure. They might have one more, but Davidson County is huge compared to Sumner County. There are more state-owned historic sites in Sumner County by far than any other county. There's a lot of history here, and it has generated a lot of tourism, a lot of revenue for the community because there is something really special about those kind of places.
So the legacy goes beyond just the schools and the historic. The legacy is the work that's been put in by our predecessors to build a community that is wonderful to live in, wonderful to work in, and wonderful to worship in. I mean, we've got tremendous churches that are involved in the community, giving back to the community in so many ways, whether it's the food bank or Northfield with their clinic, free clinic. Those things took a lot of vision from our predecessors, and we have to protect that going forward.
Right.
I don't even want to think about a county that's divided and separated over issues that should not be, when my grandson decides to, where he's going to live when he gets out of college. So I want Sumner County to continue to thrive, to continue to bring new residents in who bring new ideas. And most of them are coming from places that we wouldn't want to live in, so we're glad to have them.
Yeah. Well, as we kind of tie this all together, if there's one leadership principle that you would say you bring from your military background into all the roles that you've had in your civic life, is there just a common theme and a common principle there that you think guides you through your leadership?
For me, it all centers around character. A person's character is what you come into this world as a baby with a pure character. And the best you can hope for is when you go out, you'll go out with a solid character and your family around you. When my dad passed away, the funeral director came to me while I was there, and he said, "Dennis, I've never heard a person say a bad word about your dad." Gosh, I can only hope that would be what somebody would say at my funeral about me. Or it's from a leadership standpoint, it is truly about character. And Omar Bradley had the best definition. And more has been written about leadership than any other subject in America. There are thousands of books. It starts with the Bible, starts with Colin Powell's 19 Principles, or it comes all the way down to Pat Summitt's book that she wrote on Rising to the Summit. So what's the one thing that I refer to on leadership? It was written by Omar Bradley. 4 words: see and be seen. What he was talking about is, if you're a leader, don't sit in your office. Get out and go on the floor where your employees are working. Talk to them. See what their interests are. If you're a leader on the battlefield, you're at the front of the battle. You're not at the back. You want to see how your soldiers are responding to the threats and the dangers of war. But while you're out there doing that, guess what? They see you. They know you care. And so it's a very simple principle. Be involved, care, and give back to your community.
Well, it kind of sounds like that goes full circle back to when we first talked about what inspired you to start this. You knew that you were the person for this time to take on a really important leadership role, and you are a blessing to Sumner County. So
thank you
for your time. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for all you're doing.
All right. Go Vols.